Ever since season 1 came out, a question has been lingering in my head. I mean, among the many others with regards as to how the hell they might adapt the story of The Last of Us Part 2, but there was still a more innocuous yet still quite annoying question doing my boxing, and that was, would they still use the music shop scene? Now I know it seems obvious that, they would, because it's an iconic song. The scene in the game is one of the most beloved, serene moments in an otherwise grim story. It's a good moment for Ellie and Dina. But part of me was always wondering if it would be one of those things that would even make the cut. Because mind you, in the game, the scene is completely missable. I should know, because on my first playthrough, I fucking missed it. So when I caught a glimpse of it in the trailer for Season 2, I was like, alright, cool, it's here. But then the other question began to form in my head, and that was, would they still use Take On Me? And again, it's another one of those things where it seems obvious that they would because it's one of the best songs ever, and the reason that they could use it was because co-writer Hallie Gross is apparently friends with the spouse of one of the members of a-ha, so why wouldn't you take full advantage of that? Also, in Season 1, the song was used for one of the trailers. It was used during the flashback episode with Ellie and Riley during their day skiving school, which just adds to the idea that 5 or 6 years down the line she would be singing it to another girl that she has a crush on. But I didn't know why. For some reason, I couldn't escape the idea that they might change the song during the scene.
Well, I for one believe in the ladder to heaven. Yeah. 9/11.
Maybe because they changed the timeline of the outbreak, or maybe it was because of all the other small changes that they had made so far, such as swapping out a parody of Mortal Kombat 2 in favour of actual Mortal Kombat 2. Or maybe it was because before it was even used in The Last of Us, Take On Me is undeniably one of the most overused songs in movies, television, and basically any sort of storytelling medium that has sound. Fucking hell, you can listen to it while running around Afghanistan. And it's not as if its usage has slowed down since then. Around about the time I heard it in that Super Mario Bros. Movie, I was like, alright, maybe this is a bit too much. Not that I would ever actually complain that much, because, it's fucking Take On Me, it's one of the best songs ever. And I must admit, I did get a giddy sense of relief when I heard the familiar sound of those first few strings on the guitar. In all seriousness though, what I've always really liked about this moment is that, as mentioned, it feels like this really beautiful moment for Ellie where she gets to reminisce about Joel while also serenading Dina a little bit. But it also serves as a quiet reminder of what good things Ellie still has in life that she's putting at risk in her quest. And that does remain the case here, but it also feels just as much of a moment for Dina in this case as well. She's obviously had a secret crush on Ellie for some time, if that's what you want to call it. But here is where you see her in real time just fall in love with Ellie. It's almost like the universe is making an active effort to send her a message. Dina's downstairs and then she hears the guitar and then Ellie's voice singing this incredible song, and then goes up the stairs to see her girl crush sitting in the centre of a room with this gorgeous backdrop of vegetation and sunlight beaming through, making it look like some sort of sign from the gay gods of Asgard. Honestly, a big chunk of this episode actually does kind of belong to Dina, and I suppose by extension Isabella Merced. Up to this point, she's for the most part been the ray of light missing from Ellie's life. She's charming, funny, and just effortlessly likable.
Better not land weird on an ankle or get a fever on your well-charted path northwest.
But in this episode, a lot of that gets pulled back quite a bit and we see a much different side of her. Instead of playing the coy, bi-curious best friend, we legitimately see her break down and be mesmerised by Ellie. And later on have to face a much more dire situation where she might have to kill her. The second she witnesses Ellie get bitten, you can just see Dina immediately playing out the scenario in her head of having to put a bullet through Ellie's skull. And it's no a cute, dark joke this time.
Did you get bit? Tried to shoot you in the face? Not today.
I love the moment where Ellie first says she's immune, and you can see Dina desperately wants to believe her. She lowers her gun ever so slightly before reverting back immediately, because, she and many others have probably heard attempted rationales like this before. Maybe not I'm immune, but I'm sure it's not uncommon in this world for some people who get bitten to try and desperately talk their way out of the bullet. And the performances here are just impeccable as well. I love Ellie just seesawing back and forth between this commanding and pleading tone.
Did you not fucking shoot me? I've been bitten before. I'm still here, and you're gonna keep that gun pointed on me. If I turn, shoot me, but I promise.
And even after Ellie awakens a bit later, you can tell Dina has clearly been going through the beginning stages of grief just before being completely overwhelmed with relief that Ellie has not turned and just melting into her after telling her that she's up the duff. And Ellie shows Dina how the skills required to play a guitar can be useful in all sorts of recreational activities.
I'm feeling fantastic. I'm fucking fantastic.
I do find it very interesting how here, Ellie's reaction to Dina's pregnancy is surprisingly positive and embracing. In the game, she has a much more visceral and angry one, which I always liked because it's like the first clear indicator of Ellie's more obsessive nature coming to the surface. She now sees Dina's presence as a hindrance and almost like a betrayal. She does eventually apologise for being such a prick about it, but this is really the first moment where we do see Ellie's quest for revenge being challenged. Whereas here, it's not really treated that way. It's treated more like a happy, unifying moment. I do think this could and probably will still create a problem for them down the line. Maybe a situation where Ellie has to decide what her bigger priority is, and it might make this moment feel a lot different in retrospect, but it's gonna have to hit like a fucking shovel now. Interestingly, also in the game, after learning of the pregnancy, Ellie has Dina remain in the safety of their hideout at the theatre, while Ellie then begins venturing out through Seattle on her own. And this is really where you start getting a sense that Ellie is losing it. Almost like because she's on her own, she doesn't have anything holding her back or to remind her of what she's putting at risk. But with the way this episode ends, doesn't look like that's going to be the case here. Dina seems to still be going to tag along for the time being, which again, could still lead to some dire situations for the two, but it's going to have to come pretty fast. The other primary thing that's happening in the episode is we get more elaboration on the ongoing feud within the two factions in Seattle, the Seraphites and the Wolves and their pack leader Isaac, played by the returning from the game and captivatingly intense Jeffrey Wright. I made mention before that Isaac is a much more low-key character in the game. You don't see very much of him, but I always did find him a fascinating aspect of the world. So going into this, I was definitely hoping he would be one of the things that would get a bit of an expansion on. And do you know what? It's only been one episode, and I already feel like I'm being serviced. We're introduced to him in one of the coldest cold opens ever. One of the coldest cold opens ever. I fucking hate myself. Where he turns against Fedra to join the uprising WLF by just callously tossing a couple of grenades into the back of the truck. One thing I find really cool about this moment though is that this seems to be based on one of those missable moments from the game where you as Ellie can come across a Fedra truck with a bunch of dead bodies in the back that were seemingly ambushed, and you can find a note alluding to Isaac. But here, they've tied it directly to his origin of joining the Wolves, which I think is quite clever. I also love the quick character arc we get of the babyface soldier in the prologue, who's he's a bit of a nervous Nelly. He doesn't really know how to process the situation. Then we jump ahead 11 years where he's fully radicalized into the point of seeing the opposition as just these subhuman animals who don't deserve any sort of mercy or empathy. I've always loved the idea in the story of Part 2 that in Ellie's pursuit of revenge, she winds up right in the middle of two warring tribes in Seattle with almost no context for as to who the Seraphites are, and she just has to put up with the fact that they are both trying to kill her. And neither of the two know who Ellie is or why she's slaughtering the lot of them. I mean, obviously Abby and her friends would know, but the rest of the WLF don't know, and neither do the fucking Seraphites. She's just a stray as far as they're concerned. Like I said last time, the way the Seraphites are more slowly introduced throughout the first portion of the game is absolutely amazing. You start off by discovering notes and paintings and murals alluding to some sort of mysterious religion that exists inside Seattle. But then you start coming across the fucked up disemboweled bodies of wolf soldiers in disgustingly presentable fashion like it was Hannibal Lecter's idea. And you're just left wondering what the fuck is going on and who's doing this, because you know it's no you. Until you are eventually lumped into an actual encounter with them, and it is incredible. But they're changing up the structure of their introduction a wee bit. We're introduced to them in a much more sympathetic manner, with a group of them trying to escape the horrors of war that they're facing in Seattle, then establishing that they themselves have extreme brutal methods, and also that there seems to be some sort of division within their tribe where not everyone carries the same extremist values and belief in their supposed divine prophet. I'm not saying any of this is bad. I mean, as for how it's presented in an episode of a TV series, I think it's actually done really well. It's a good way to show that even within one's own tribe, no matter how unified you think you are, you can still find strife. And we're also establishing the cyclical nature of violence with these two factions, which might be prevalent to other characters in the series, but I don't fucking know. If I had to guess, I would say I don't think we're going to see or get a lot more insight into this side of things, at least in this season. I feel like a lot of this is mystery and setup for what will likely be explored more thoroughly in the already confirmed Season 3. We also get this terrific sequence where Ellie and Dina are escaping the wolves and it leads to the underground tunnels. Well, I mean, firstly, We get what is essentially a stealth section of Ellie and Dina attempting to sneak around the wolves without engaging them, which is always something I forget you can do in a lot of instances in the game, unless your sneaking abilities aren't as up to par as your smashing a brick into somebody's face abilities. Part of me was hoping that they would stealth kill everybody in the room. I mean, come on, there was only 4 of them. That's fucking child's play, even on grounded difficulty. Ellie does stab that one guy in the throat though, which, if you play the game like I do, is an animation that you will become all too familiar with. This doesn't really mean anything, but like, I love that they've just made it that Dina is the one who has the special skill of listen mode. In the game, if you're playing on like a more moderate difficulty, you have the ability to use what's called listen mode, which basically allows you to see through walls and assess how many enemies there are in the room and where they are. It's not quite as sophisticated or as overpowered as something like Batman's detective vision in the Arkham games, but it's still a pretty useful fucking skill to have, and I just find it funny that that skill belongs to Dina apparently. We're only 4 episodes in and they're doing quite a lot of infected stuff that I've really been liking so far. This part where Ellie and Dina are stuck in the train carriage while the infected are just stampeding the sides has some real shades of Train to Busan to it. I love it. It's intense as fuck, and the usage of red flares really gives the whole scene such a dangerous, violent atmosphere, and I do not think it's going to be the last time we're going to have an extremely intense sequence involving a crimson drenched atmosphere. This series just looks incredible, like, altogether. I mean, like, even if you're someone who feels like the show has fallen off for whatever writing or character reasons, you still cannot deny how fucking stunning the production and art direction is in this series. I know it's not exclusive to The Last of Us, but I've always loved the post-apocalyptic design of a world where broken, dilapidated architecture and all sorts of human creations are being overtaken by plant life and vegetation, as if the earth itself is just reclaiming its territory. And from the get-go, the show itself has been doing it phenomenally. My 2 main concerns, like, going forward still remain. First of all, Tommy. Like I said before, I was really surprised by how much I loved how they portrayed him in the first 3 episodes, but was still a bit on the fence about how they might be altering his role in the overall story here. And it is looking more and more like that is officially the case. Again, he's not a very visible presence in the story of Part 2, but he is still very heavily felt throughout, and it makes Ellie's questionable mindset and motivations very murky. But it doesn't really look like that'll be happening at any point. Unless, of course, they somehow, some way find a way to squeeze that aspect of the story in at some point in the next 3 weeks, but I highly doubt if that'll happen now. Like I said before, I have a feeling that they might pair him up with Jesse or something like that, but I'm not entirely sure. I feel I should say also, I don't think this alteration is completely to the detriment of his character. As I've mentioned before, Tommy having his own child is not an element that's in the game, so that does greatly change how his character would act and choose to approach things in this version of events. So that is a reasonable way to tone down his role a bit if you felt like you needed to. It is still a bit disappointing that it is not there though, but yeah, that's what happens with adaptations, isn't it? I mean, for as much as I loved the Bill and Frank episode of season 1, I can't deny I would have loved to have seen Nick Offerman verbally sparring with Bella Ramsey like their game counterparts.
Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. And you can start by taking these off.
Yeah, sure, Joel. Go ahead. Take my card. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
You listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you. You handcuffed me.
Hey! What'd I say to you when we walked down the steps? What'd I say?
I'm just fixing your stupid pile.
Don't touch.
Fuck you, bitch!
God damn it.
I suppose my biggest concern overall is still just the amount of time we have left. Again, though we're only 4 episodes in, it really does feel like we're just getting started, which wouldn't feel as concerning if we didn't have just 3 episodes remaining. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that this is only going to be half the story of Part 2. The creators already confirmed ages ago that the story of part 2 would have to be split into 2 or possibly even 3 seasons. And cool, that was always to be expected. But even if this season is just half the story, it still feels like there's a lot of stuff to pack into the next 3 episodes. I know that the second game's runtime is really contentious for a lot of people, but part of what I always found appealing about it was you really feel just how arduous, painful, and self-destructive this path Ellie is walking down is. And we haven't really gotten too much of a sense of that just yet in the series. So I am a bit concerned that 3 episodes, at least one of which is mostly probably going to be a flashback episode, isn't going to be enough time to replicate that sense of strenuous longevity. All that being said though, I still feel like this episode and the previous ones have all been pretty much perfectly paced, in my opinion. As far as like just watching a television show goes, if I didn't know there was only 3 episodes remaining, I would be like, yeah, this worked perfectly well. I'm always completely locked in and I'm deeply invested in these characters. So maybe when I get to the end of the season, hopefully my concerns will have been put to bed and I can appreciate the full picture. Well, the full first half of the picture, but you know what I mean. I am thinking that next episode is where a lot more darker stuff is going to start seeping into this story. I mean, it's not exactly been an episode of The Bear in the Big Blue House up to this point, but trust me, things can always get darker. They are in Seattle after all.
Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Mercy. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face. What is a boy to do?